What if I told you there's a real-life alien planet hiding right here on Earth? A place where trees grow upside down, where 1/3 of all plants exist nowhere else in the universe, and where evolution took a completely different path for 20 million years. This island looks so bizarre that when the first explorers arrived, they thought they had discovered another world. Trees that bleed red like wounds, flowers that look like they belong on Mars, animals that seem designed by science fiction writers. But here's the incredible part. This place actually exists. It's called Socotra Island, and it's been called the most alien place on Earth. Yet 99% of people have never heard of it, and even fewer will ever see it in person. In the next hour, I'm going to take you to this lost world that Darwin himself would have envied. Get ready to question everything you thought you knew about life on our planet. Imagine a place that has been completely cut off from the rest of the world for 20 million years. A living laboratory where evolution had total freedom to experiment, to create, to design life forms that exist nowhere else on Earth. This isn't science fiction, this is Socotra Island. Located in the Indian Ocean, 380 kilometers south of Yemen and 240 kilometers east of Somalia, Socotra is one of the most isolated landmasses on our planet. For comparison, the Galapagos Islands that inspired Darwin have been isolated for only 5 million years. Socotra has been alone for times longer. This isolation created something scientists call the Galapagos of the Indian Ocean. But that comparison doesn't do justice to how truly alien this place is. While the Galapagos has about 9% endemic species, plants and animals found nowhere else, Socotra has over 37% endemic plant species alone. That's a level of uniqueness matched by almost nowhere else on Earth. The island covers about 1,400 square miles, roughly the size of Rhode Island. But within that small area exists one of the most extraordinary collections of life forms our planet has ever produced. Today, we're going to explore every corner of this lost world, meet the bizarre creatures that call it home, and discover why this place might hold secrets that could change how we understand life itself. But there's also a tragic side to this story. Socotra sits in one of the most conflict-torn regions of the world, making it nearly impossible for outsiders to visit. This means that one of Earth's greatest natural treasures remains hidden, unexplored, and increasingly threatened.
Chapter 1. The Dragon Blood Forest Trees from Another World. Let's start with the most famous residents of Socotra trees that look like they were designed by aliens. The dragon blood trees, or Dracaena cinnabari, are unlike anything else on Earth. When you first see one, your brain struggles to process what you're looking at. Picture this. Instead of growing up and out like normal trees, dragon blood trees grow up and then spread into perfect umbrella shapes, as if someone took a giant umbrella and planted it in the ground upside down. The trunk is thick and silver, branching into hundreds of smaller limbs that all end at exactly the same height, creating a flat canopy that looks like it was trimmed with enormous scissors. But the truly incredible part is what happens when you cut the bark. Instead of clear sap, thick red resin oozes out dragon's blood. This isn't just a poetic name. The resin is so deep red, it looks exactly like blood, and it has been one of the most valuable substances in human history. For over 2,000 years, this dragon's blood resin was worth more than gold. Ancient Romans used it for medicine and dye. Medieval alchemists believed it had magical properties. Chinese emperors demanded it for their palaces. The resin was so valuable that it drove trade routes across the Indian Ocean for centuries. These trees can live for hundreds of years, growing incredibly slowly in Socotra's harsh, dry climate. They've developed their distinctive umbrella shape for survival. The dense canopy catches moisture from fog and rare rainfall, channeling every precious drop down to the roots. The flat top maximizes the surface area for catching water while minimizing the area exposed to the burning sun. Walking through a dragon blood tree forest is like walking through an alien landscape. The trees cast circular shadows on the rocky ground, creating natural umbrellas in the desert. Some trees are massive, with canopies 30 feet across. Others are smaller, younger, but all have that same impossible umbrella shape that makes them look more like sculptures than living plants. What makes these trees even more remarkable is that they exist nowhere else in the universe. After 20 million years of isolation, they evolved into something completely unique. They're not closely related to any other tree species on Earth. They represent their own evolutionary path, their own solution to surviving in one of the harshest environments on the planet. But these ancient forests are under threat. Climate change is making Socotra even drier, and human development is encroaching on their habitat. Some scientists estimate that we could lose these incredible trees within our lifetime, taking with them 20 million years of unique evolution.
Chapter 2. The desert rose garden's living sculpture. As if dragon blood trees look alien, then Socotra's desert rose plants look like they were sculpted by artists from another dimension. The Adenium obesum socotranum is Socotra's version of the desert rose, but it's unlike any desert rose found anywhere else on Earth. Imagine walking through a garden of living sculptures. Each desert rose plant looks like a massive vase or bottle that someone carved from stone, then decided to bring to life. The trunk is enormously swollen, sometimes reaching 6 feet in diameter, storing water like a living reservoir. From this bottle-shaped base, thin branches emerge, ending in clusters of bright pink and red flowers that seem almost impossibly vibrant against the harsh landscape. These plants are masters of survival in Socotra's extreme environment. The massive trunk can store hundreds of gallons of water, allowing the plant to survive for years without rainfall. The trunk's smooth, pale surface reflects heat, while its shape minimizes the surface area exposed to the sun. It's engineering perfection disguised as art. During Socotra's brief flowering season, usually after rare rainfall, these desert roses explode into bloom. The contrast is stunning. These thick, gray, almost rock-like trunks suddenly burst with clouds of delicate pink flowers. The sight of an entire hillside covered with blooming desert roses is one of the most spectacular natural displays on Earth. But what makes Socotra's desert roses truly special is their size and longevity. While desert roses in other parts of the world are relatively small, Socotra's version can grow to enormous proportions. Some specimens are estimated to be over 500 years old, having survived centuries of drought, storms, and temperature extremes. The shapes these plants take are endlessly varied and often bizarre. Some look like enormous bottles, others like twisted sculptures, still others like alien beings frozen in place. Local people see faces, animals, and spirits in their forms. Each plant is unique, shaped by centuries of wind, weather, and the constant struggle for survival. These desert rose gardens create some of the most surreal landscapes on Socotra. Areas like the Hom Hill Plateau are dotted with hundreds of these living sculptures, creating a scene that looks more like an outdoor art gallery than a natural environment. Walking among them feels like exploring the workshop of some cosmic sculptor who specializes in impossible forms.
Chapter 3. The Frankincense Mountain's Ancient Treasures. High in Socotra's mountains grows another plant that shaped human history, the frankincense tree. But these aren't just any frankincense trees. Socotra's Boswellia species are unique to the island, producing some of the finest frankincense resin ever discovered. For over 3,000 years, frankincense from Socotra was more valuable than gold. Ancient Egyptians used it to embalm pharaohs. The Bible tells us it was one of the gifts brought to baby Jesus. Roman emperors burned it in temples, and its smoke was believed to carry prayers to the gods. This small island controlled one of the most important trade commodities in the ancient world. Socotra's frankincense trees have adapted to grow in seemingly impossible conditions. They sprout directly from bare rock faces, their roots somehow finding nutrients and water in solid stone. The trees look like they're melting. Their trunks and branches flow like thick liquid, conforming to the shape of the rocks they grow from. When you cut the bark of a frankincense tree, aromatic resin begins to ooze out. As this resin hardens in the dry air, it forms tear-shaped drops that can be harvested. The quality of Socotra's frankincense is legendary. Its scent is more complex and intense than frankincense from anywhere else in the world. The trees themselves are architectural marvels. Some grow horizontally along cliff faces, their trunks forming natural bridges between rocks. Others grow in impossible spirals, twisted by decades of wind and weather into living sculptures. Their ability to thrive in pure rock makes them look more like geological formations than living plants. But perhaps the most incredible frankincense forests are found in Socotra's highest mountains, where fog and occasional rainfall create slightly less harsh conditions. Here, the trees grow larger and more abundant, creating ancient groves that have been harvesting frankincense for thousands of years. Local Socotra people have been harvesting frankincense using the same methods their ancestors used 3,000 years ago. They make small cuts in the bark and return weeks later to collect the hardened resin tears. Each tree can produce several pounds of frankincense per year without being harmed, making it a sustainable source of income for island communities. These frankincense mountains hold more than just valuable resin, they hold the history of human civilization. This is where East met West in the ancient world, where Arab traders connected the spice routes of Asia with the markets of Europe and Africa. The wealth generated by Socotra's frankincense helped build some of the greatest empires in human history.
Chapter 4. The Coral Reef's Underwater Alien World. Socotra's alien nature isn't limited to its land. The waters surrounding the island contain some of the most pristine coral reefs in the Indian Ocean. With marine life that's equally unique, the coral reefs around Socotra have been protected by the island's isolation. While coral reefs worldwide have suffered from pollution, overfishing, and climate change, Socotra's reefs remain largely untouched. The result is an underwater paradise that looks like what coral reefs might have looked like centuries ago. The diversity here is staggering. The reefs are home to over 730 species of coastal fish, many found nowhere else in the world. Giant groupers the size of cars patrol the deeper waters. Schools of barracuda create living silver tornadoes. Manta rays with wingspans of 20 feet glide through the blue like underwater aircraft. But it's the smaller creatures that truly showcase Socotra's uniqueness. The island's coral reefs are home to dozens of endemic fish species, fish that evolved in these waters and exist nowhere else on Earth. Brilliant yellow angelfish, striped damselfish, and wrasses in colors that seem too vivid to be real create living rainbows against the coral backdrop. The coral itself tells a story of isolation and adaptation. Many of Socotra's coral species are found nowhere else, having evolved in these protected waters over thousands of years. Some corals here have grown into formations unlike anything seen elsewhere, massive table corals that stretch for hundreds of feet, creating underwater forests of living stone. Socotra's waters are also important breeding grounds for sea turtles, dolphins, and whales. Green sea turtles nest on the island's beaches, following migration patterns that may be thousands of years old. Pods of dolphins are common in the coastal waters, and during certain seasons, whale sharks, the largest fish in the world, can be seen feeding in the nutrient-rich waters. The underwater landscapes around Socotra are as dramatic as those on land. Underwater cliffs drop thousands of feet into the deep ocean. Underwater caves and swim-throughs create cathedral-like spaces filled with colorful marine life. Underwater hot springs create unusual ecosystems where specialized creatures thrive in the warm, mineral-rich water. But like everything else on Socotra, these underwater worlds are threatened. Climate change is causing ocean temperatures to rise and ocean chemistry to change, putting stress on coral reefs worldwide. The political instability in the region makes it difficult to establish proper marine protection programs. Chapter 5. The Endemic Birds Evolution in Flight. Socotra's isolation didn't just create unique plants and marine life, it produced an extraordinary collection of birds found nowhere else on Earth. The island is home to 11 endemic bird species, each one a testament to evolution's creativity when given complete freedom to experiment. The most spectacular of these is the Socotra sunbird, a tiny jewel of a bird with iridescent feathers that seem to change color as it moves. The males are brilliant metallic blue-green with bright yellow bellies, while females are more subtly colored in browns and yellows. These tiny birds are perfectly adapted to feed on the nectar of Socotra's unique flowering plants, creating pollination relationships that exist nowhere else on Earth. Then there's the Socotra starling, a glossy black bird with bright orange-yellow eyes that seems almost too exotic to be real. These birds are highly social, forming flocks that move through the dragon blood tree forests like living clouds. Their calls echo through the alien landscapes, adding an otherworldly soundtrack to Socotra's surreal scenery. The Socotra cisticola is a small brown bird that doesn't look particularly exotic, but it represents one of evolution's most interesting experiments. This bird has adapted to live in Socotra's harsh desert environment, getting all the water it needs from the insects it eats and rarely, if ever, drinking liquid water. Perhaps most remarkable is the Socotra bunting, a small seed-eating bird that has evolved to thrive in the island's rocky, desert-like environment. These birds can survive on the seeds of plants that would be toxic to most other animals, having developed specialized digestive systems over millions of years of isolation. The island is also home to the largest population of Egyptian vultures in the Arabian Peninsula. These massive birds, with wingspans reaching 9 feet, soar above Socotra's mountains and coasts, serving as the island's cleanup crew. Watching these enormous birds ride the thermals above the dragon blood tree forests creates scenes that look prehistoric. Socotra's bird life follows different rules than birds elsewhere. Many species show unusual behaviors that developed in isolation. Some birds that are normally ground-dwelling elsewhere have become tree-dwellers on Socotra. Others have developed unusual feeding behaviors, taking advantage of the island's unique plant and insect life. The breeding seasons, migration patterns, and social behaviors of Socotra's birds often don't match their relatives elsewhere in the world. They've adapted to Socotra's unique climate, with its irregular rainfall and extreme temperature variations. Some species time their breeding to coincide with the rare periods of abundant food, while others have learned to breed opportunistic.
But these unique bird populations face serious threats. Habitat destruction, introduced species, and climate change all pose risks to birds that evolved in isolation and may not be able to adapt quickly to rapid changes in their environment. Chapter 6. The Socotra people, guardians of a lost world. For over 2,000 years, the Socotra people have been the guardians of this biological treasure. These islanders have developed a unique culture perfectly adapted to life in one of Earth's most extraordinary environments. They speak Socotra, an unwritten language that exists nowhere else and contains knowledge about the island that science is only beginning to understand. The Socotra people have traditionally lived as pastoralists, herding goats, cattle, and camels across the island's harsh landscapes. But they're not just herders, they're also some of the world's most knowledgeable ethnobotanists, with detailed understanding of every plant on the island and its uses. For centuries, the Socotra people have been the custodians of the dragon blood tree forests, the frankincense groves, and the other unique ecosystems that make Socotra special. Their traditional practices developed over thousands of years to be sustainable, ensuring that they could harvest the island's resources without destroying them. The Socotra language contains hundreds of words for different plants, animals, and natural phenomena that don't exist in any other language. They have specific terms for the different stages of dragon blood tree growth, for the various types of frankincense resin, and for weather patterns that are unique to Socotra. This linguistic knowledge represents thousands of years of accumulated wisdom about living in harmony with one of Earth's most challenging environments. Traditional Socotra architecture is perfectly adapted to the island's climate. Houses are built from local stone with thick walls that stay cool during the day and retain heat at night. Roofs are designed to catch and channel the precious rainwater into storage tanks. Village layouts take advantage of natural wind patterns and provide shelter from the harsh desert sun. The Socotra people have their own traditional medicine system based entirely on the island's endemic plants. They use dragon blood tree resin for healing wounds, frankincense for respiratory problems, and dozens of other endemic plants for various ailments. Modern pharmaceutical companies are just beginning to study these traditional remedies, some of which show remarkable medical potential. But Socotra culture is under threat. Young people are moving to the mainland for education and economic opportunities, taking with them knowledge that may never return to the island. The unwritten Socotra language is at risk of disappearing, and with it, thousands of years of accumulated knowledge about the island's unique ecosystems. Political situation in Yemen has also disrupted traditional life on Socotra. Economic hardship has forced some islanders to exploit natural resources more intensively than their sustainable traditions would normally allow. Tourism, which could provide alternative income while encouraging conservation, has become nearly impossible due to regional instability. Chapter 7. The scientific treasure discoveries waiting to happen. From a scientific perspective, Socotra is a treasure trove that has barely been explored. Every expedition to the island discovers new species, and scientists estimate that hundreds more remain undiscovered. This is one of the few places on Earth where major biological discoveries are still being made regularly. The level of endemism on Socotra is extraordinary. Of the 825 plant species found on the island, 307 are endemic. They exist nowhere else in the universe. This represents one of the highest levels of plant endemism found anywhere on Earth, rivaling much larger and more famous biodiversity hotspots. But it's not just the number of endemic species that makes Socotra scientifically valuable, it's what these species can teach us about evolution, adaptation, and survival. The dragon blood trees, for example, represent a completely unique solution to surviving in arid environments. Their umbrella-shaped canopies and water-collecting strategies could inspire new approaches to water conservation and desert agriculture. The island's frankincense trees have evolved the ability to extract nutrients and water from solid rock, a capability that could revolutionize our understanding of plant biology. Some of Socotra's endemic plants have developed chemical defenses against insects and diseases that could lead to new medicines or natural pesticides. Recent scientific expeditions have discovered species that challenge our understanding of how life works. Some plants on Socotra have developed photosynthesis processes that are more efficient than those found elsewhere. Others have created chemical compounds that don't exist anywhere else in nature. The island's isolation makes it a natural laboratory for studying evolution and action. Scientists can see how species change when they're completely cut off from outside genetic influence. The results often surprise researchers. Evolution on Socotra has taken paths that scientists didn't expect, creating solutions to survival challenges that are completely novel. Marine biologists are equally excited about Socotra's underwater ecosystems. The coral reefs around the island represent some of the most pristine marine environments left on Earth. They provide a window into what coral reefs looked like before human impact, and they may hold clues to how coral reefs can adapt to climate change. But conducting research on Socotra is extremely difficult. The political situation in Yemen makes it nearly impossible for international scientists to visit. Many research projects have been put on hold indefinitely, meaning that potential medical breakthroughs, conservation strategies, and scientific discoveries are being delayed or lost entirely. Chapter 8. The threats of paradise under pressure. Despite its isolation and protection from many global threats, Socotra faces serious challenges that could destroy its unique ecosystems within our lifetime. Climate change is perhaps the biggest threat. The island is becoming hotter and drier, putting stress on plants and animals that evolved under different conditions. The dragon blood trees are particularly vulnerable to climate change. These ancient trees are adapted to a very specific climate with occasional fog and rainfall. As the climate becomes drier, young trees are failing to establish themselves, and mature trees are showing signs of stress. Some scientists predict that dragon blood tree forests could disappear within 50 years. Human development is another major threat. As Socotra's population grows and becomes more connected to the outside world, pressure on natural resources is increasing. Roads are being built through sensitive habitats, and modern fishing techniques are putting pressure on marine ecosystems that evolved with only traditional fishing pressure. Introduced species pose a significant threat to Socotra's unique ecosystems. Plants and animals that arrive from the mainland can disrupt the delicate balance that took millions of years to establish. Domestic goats, for example, can overgraze areas that are critical habitat for endemic plants. The political situation in Yemen creates additional challenges. Conservation programs are difficult to maintain during times of conflict, and economic hardship can force people to exploit natural resources in unsustainable ways. The lack of tourism income removes one of the strongest economic incentives for conservation. Perhaps most tragically, many of the threats to Socotra are irreversible. Once an endemic species goes extinct, it's gone forever, along with millions of years of unique evolutionary history. The knowledge held by traditional Socotra culture is equally irreplaceable. Once lost, it can never be recovered. International conservation organizations are working to protect Socotra, but their efforts are hampered by the political situation. UNESCO has designated Socotra as a World Heritage Site, but this designation provides little practical protection when the area is inaccessible to international monitors and support. The window for protecting Socotra's unique ecosystems is rapidly closing. Without immediate and sustained conservation efforts, the world could lose one of its most extraordinary natural treasures. A living laboratory that took 20 million years to create and could be destroyed in just a few decades. Chapter 9. The Hope, Conservation Efforts, and Future Possibilities. Despite the challenges, there are reasons for hope. The Socotra people themselves are some of Socotra's strongest conservationists, having lived sustainably on the island for thousands of years. Many local communities are actively working to protect the ecosystems they depend on. International conservation organizations continue to work on Socotra despite the difficulties. Remote sensing technology allows scientists to monitor the island's ecosystems from space, tracking changes in forest cover, coral reef health, and other important indicators. When conditions allow, research expeditions continue to document and study Socotra's unique species. The potential for ecotourism provides a powerful economic incentive for conservation. Socotra's unique landscapes and endemic species could attract visitors from around the world, providing income that would make conservation economically beneficial for local communities. Several sustainable tourism projects have been developed and are waiting for political conditions to improve. Scientific research continues despite the obstacles. Botanists and zoologists are working with preserved specimens and genetic samples to better understand Socotra's unique species. This research is identifying which species are most at risk and what conservation strategies might be most effective. Climate adaptation research on Socotra could benefit conservation efforts worldwide. The island's species have already evolved to survive in extremely harsh conditions, and understanding their adaptations could help predict how species elsewhere might respond to climate change. Local conservation initiatives are showing promise. Socotra communities are establishing their own protected areas and developing sustainable harvesting practices for traditional resources like frankincense and dragon's blood resin. These community-based conservation efforts often prove more effective than top-down protection schemes. International support for Socotra continues despite the political challenges. The island has been designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve, and an important bird area. These designations help maintain international awareness and support for conservation efforts. Education programs are helping younger generations of Socotra people understand the global importance of their island's unique ecosystems. Schools on the island now include environmental education in their curricula, helping ensure that future generations will value and protect their natural heritage.
Socotra is more than just an island. It's a reminder of what our world could be if we learn to live in harmony with the incredible diversity of life that shares our planet. It's a glimpse of the creativity and resilience of life itself, and a call to action for everyone who believes that such wonders should be preserved for future generations. In the end, Socotra isn't just the most alien place on Earth, it's one of the most precious. It's a world within our world, a living treasure that reminds us that no matter how much we think we know about our planet, there are still mysteries waiting to be discovered, still wonders that can change how we see our place in the universe. The question is, will we act in time to save this last alien world, or will we lose it forever to the very human conflicts that have kept it hidden from the world for so long? The choice is ours, but time is running out. Call to action. What amazed you most about Socotra Island? The upside-down dragon blood trees? The bottle-shaped desert roses? Or the fact that 1/3 of all plant life there exists nowhere else in the universe? Let me know in the comments which of these alien life forms fascinated you most. And if you think more people should know about this incredible lost world, please share this video. Socotra may be hidden from most of the world, but we can still spread awareness about why it matters and why it needs our protection. Subscribe for more hidden wonders from the most remote corners of our planet. Because places like Socotra remind us that no matter how much we think we know about Earth, there are still worlds within our world waiting to be discovered.